You should also be there in the panelist so that we know that as soon as the Honorable Minister joins. And very good morning once again to each one of you. Today's program is Retail CFO Conclave, Empowering Through New Mandate. So very important program from our retail committee led by Mr. Saurabh. Unfortunately, he's not there today. And Ms. Amisha Jain, our co-chair of this retail committee, she has joined. Very good morning to you, Ms. Jain. A very warm welcome to you.
Good morning.
And the entire program has been curated, I should say, under her leadership, and one of a very prominent members of PHDCCI. Also joined by Shri Pradeep Multani, our president of PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry. A very good morning to you, sir, and a warm welcome to you, sir. A name in the Ayush sector, recently been nominated by Government of India into the medicinal plants boards as one of the key members, and he is responsible to ensure that from concept to commercialization, as far as the medicinal plants are concerned in India, how it is going to be used. And as you all are aware that during this challenging time, people are in love with the Ayush products and people are using Ayurvedic products. So a very key person, I must say, we are very fortunate that we have a president like Mr. Multani, who is giving us a lot of ideas, and his brand Kuka is doing wonders, not only in India, but outside India. Ladies and gentlemen, let me, before we start formally, as soon as the Honorable Minister
sir has joined the session, sir.
I am sorry?
Honorable Minister has joined the session, sir.
Okay, Honorable Minister, sir, has joined. Very good morning to you, sir. A very warm welcome to you from PHDCCI. And we will start. President, sir, do I have your permission to start it formally?
Yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, very good morning to each one of you over here for this very important webinar, which we have, Retail CFO Conclave. Let me also wish every student, those who have joined through YouTube channel, and hundreds of my students are also viewing this program from across the country, and some of my friends from Canada has also joined. So we also welcome our friends in Canada who has joined this program. So ladies and gentlemen, we are very happy to share it with you. We have chief guest today, Dr. Bhagwat Krishna Rao Karadji, Honorable Minister of State Finance, Department of Financial Services, Ministry of Finance, Government of India. And please allow me to share a brief profile of Honorable Minister before we start the program formally. Dr. Bhagwat Krishna Karad, born on 16th July 1956, is an Indian politician serving as the Union Finance Minister of State since July 2021, and is a member of Rajya Sabha from the state of Maharashtra since August 2020. He has also served as a member of the Parliamentary Standing Committee of Petroleum and Natural Gas and Consultative Committee on Power, New and Renewable Energy. He is the most qualified member of the serving Union Cabinet and has been medical practitioner for 4 decades. Ladies and gentlemen, and especially for my young friends, those who have joined, let me share it with you. Honorable Minister, born and raised in Chikli village in Latur district, where you all know Latur, a very big earthquake came in early 2000, district of Maharashtra, and Dr. Karad completed his school education in his village itself amidst hardship. His father was a poor farmer and could earn barely for his family. However, Dr. Karad's thirst to gain knowledge pushed him to walk 5 kilometers per day, daily, to attend the school. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a very, very honor for us that we have a person like him in today's conference. And he's the first pediatric surgeon and the highest qualified one from Maharashtra region of Maharashtra. We welcome you, sir, on this occasion, and a very warm welcome to you, sir, for joining this Retail CFO Conclave. So with this note, ladies and gentlemen, let me request first Mr. Anand Agarwal. He is the Vice Chairman of MMG Group, and he is also heading Coke and McDonald's, especially in the north, central and eastern part of India, and a young entrepreneur and a very senior member of our retail committee. I would like to invite him first to come and give the theme address. Over to you, Mr. Anand Agarwal.
Thank you so much. Namaste. A very good morning to everyone. Dr. Bhagat Krishnarao Karad, Honorable Minister of State, Department of Finance Services, Mr. Pradeep Multani, President, PHDCCI, Ms. Amisha Jain, Co-Chair Retail Committee, PHDCCI, Dr. Yogesh Srivastava, Assistant Secretary General, all management committee members, friends from media, and all participants. A new year is here, but COVID-19 latest surge feels so very last year, not to mention the year before that also. To kick off 2022, India looked at issues that many people thought would have started to resolve as the virus died down, but which instead required renewed engagement. Several retailers reported a dip in business towards the end of December. Retail businesses were on a steady growth trajectory during most of December. However, the pace of growth was seen dropping off significantly towards the last week of December due to fresh sets of curbs imposed in most parts of the country, owing to the third wave of the pandemic. India's GDP growth for this fiscal is at 9.5%, but it expects some adverse impact in the fourth quarter due to the spread of Omicron variant of COVID-19 and a high base effect. Companies have been investing to create robust and diversified supply chains, accelerating digitization on the customer experience side, and automating processes since the pandemic broke out. Dear friends, the theme of Retail CFO Conclave is empowering through new mandate. One trend about CFOs that was confirmed after a year also is that the finance leader's role is ever evolving. That has never been truly than it is today, during an era of dramatic change. With, for instance, the COVID-19 pandemic, increased attention being paid to social and environmental issues, and the accelerated adoption of technology to address merit business and social problems. All these trends are triggering fundamental shifts in how people and businesses get work done. CFO's focus has shifted towards crisis management and away from longer term responsibilities such as strategic leadership, organizational change, and finance capabilities. But the results also point to a way forward for CFOs and their companies as more industries and economies move towards recovery, suggesting the degree to which finance leaders can have more impact in key areas of the business and how companies can take advantage of missed opportunities to leverage the CFO's insights and leadership. All organizations need to understand and live their purpose, especially now that business is expected to do much more than simply keep shareholders happy. CFOs are increasingly vital to these changes, using data to increase transparency, deliver insight on performance, and enable their companies to take a more ethical approach. CFOs can continue to experiment with new tools and technologies, digitize their own functions, and with that experience, they spread digitization throughout the organization. They can lead the way in evaluating ESG risks and opportunities by factoring ESG related criteria into the company's investments objectives and decision making. CFOs can also take on a bigger role in executing transformations beyond just traditional financial tasks, since they can control most of the key business levers that determine a transformational success. It's no surprise, perhaps, that CFOs have been at the forefront of addressing the many challenges that the global COVID-19 pandemic has wrought across industries and geographies. Many of them had to focus on their businesses' shorter term needs and have closely monitored performances, costs, and their productivity. But the longer term implications of many critical business trends, digital transformation, and ESG among them, are now apparent and require the CFO's leadership as well. Given the CFO's focus on the kind of value creation that relies on their deep understanding of the economies of the company's business model, the strategic perspective on on sector shaping trends, and the role as thought partner with the CEO and the board, they're best qualified to drive these changes. With these words, I'm hopeful that today's session and discussion will help the delegates will get some insights on improving and upgrading their functions to serve the bigger and larger purposes of the organization. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Anand Agarwal. Thank you very much for setting the theme for today's discussion, which is going to happen for next 40-45 minutes. And ladies and gentlemen, let me not boast him. These are the set of young entrepreneurs who are taking the country in a very forward way and basically truly implementing our Honorable Prime Minister saying Atmanirbhar Bharat. Thank you very much, Mr. Anand Agarwal. And as soon as the pandemic is over, we will certainly seek an appointment with the Honorable Minister so that we can meet him physically at Delhi. Ladies and gentlemen, with this note now, let me invite Mr. Pradeep Multani to welcome the Honorable Minister and give his presidential remarks. After that, we will go to the Honorable Minister for his speech. Over to you, Mr. Multani, President, PhD Chamber.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yogesh Srivastava. Good morning to all. On behalf of PHD Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I am greatly honored and pleased to welcome you all to the Retail CFO Conclave with Dr. Bhagwat Kishan Rao Karad, Honorable Minister of State, Department of Financial Services, Ministry of Finance and Government of India. We thank Honorable Minister for taking time from his busy schedule and address the industry members. I also welcome the other eminent speakers, Mr. Saurabh Agarwal, Co-Chair Retail Committee, PhD, Mr. Anand Agarwal, Director, CMAC Limited, PHDCCI, Ms. Amisha Jain, Co-Chair, Delhi and NCR Committee of PHDCCI, Dr. Yogesh Srivastava, Assistant Secretary General, Managing Committee members, friends from media, all participants. A very warm welcome to all of you. PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry has been working as a catalyst for the promotion of Indian industry, trade and entrepreneurship for the past 116 years. It is a forward-looking, proactive and dynamic pan-India apex organization. As a partner in progress with industry and government, PHDCCI works at the grassroots level with strong national and international linkages for propelling progress, harmony, and integrated development of the Indian economy. PHDCCI, acting as the voice of industry and trade with a large membership base of 150,000 direct and indirect members consisting of large, medium, and small industries, has forged ahead, leveraging its legacy with the industry knowledge across multiple sectors to take Indian economy to the next level. We at PHDCCI are committed to make India a USD 5 trillion economy, doubling farmers' income, and achieve all the goals which have been set up by our Honorable Prime Minister. At the global level, we have been working with the embassies and high commissions in India to bring in the international best practices and business opportunities. A CFO is in charge of a company's financial operations. This includes responsibility for internal and external financial reporting, stewardship of a company's assets, and ownership of cash management. Increasingly, the role is more forward-looking and expanding to incorporate strategy and business partnerships. We all know the world has changed. In past almost 2 years, we've seen shifts that would normally take years to unfurl and have rushed to adapt and keep up, finding new ways to work and compete on the fly. This is especially salient in grocery retail, one of the first spaces to be impacted by a sudden and massive change in consumer behavior in March, as consumers abandoned weekly or more frequent shopping trips in favor of stockpiling and skipping in-store visits altogether. Technological shifts that have been underway for years have been put into turbocharge by the recent health crisis and resulting behavioral changes, with shoppers rapidly embracing online ordering for curbside pickup and delivery at astounding rates. To keep pace with this unprecedented change in behavior, retailers are adapting new operating procedures spanning labor to buying, forecasting and merchandising, but this doesn't stop at the store, and the impact is felt at the corporate level and in retailers' bottom lines. Retail will continue to change both throughout the current health crisis and beyond, and CFOs must find ways to work with this disruption before them. To protect the balance sheets, they must understand the macroeconomic forces and behavioral shifts in play, partner with store merchants to find ways to entice customers, and find ways to balance added labor and inventory costs with demand. A retailer's brand promise relies on delivering goods to the customer at a given level of service, and this responsibility now falls on CFOs more than ever before. While the task may seem daunting, the answer may lie in the inventory itself and finding ways to make it work harder. With the right inventory visibility and analytics and bearing these new rules in mind, CFOs can optimize their stock and drive equal sales with less inventory. As any financer will tell you, a penny saved can be as good as a penny earned, and at retail scale, these savings can add up. Capability building must be front and center in any company's plans to prepare for the next level. CFOs have access to data, a cross-functional perspective, and an expanding role as value manager and strategy partner. They therefore have a critical role to play in ensuring that companies develop the skills, mindsets, and behavior required for long-term success. With these words, I would like to conclude my remarks and look forward to the meaningful and insightful deliberation for the industry stakeholders. We look forward to hearing the views of our Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. Bhagwat Kishan Rao Karat. Thank you, Jai Hind, and God bless everyone.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very much for your wonderful remarks. And as you rightly said, finance plays a very important and major role. Let me not take much time since the Honorable Minister has a very busy schedule. Let us invite the Honorable Minister. He is the chief guest today, Dr. Bhagwat Krishna Rao Karatji, Honorable Minister of State Finance, Department of Financial Services, Ministry of Finance, Government of India, to kindly give his address, please. Sir, kindly unmute yourself and please speak. The floor is yours, Honorable Minister.
Namaskar.
Namaskar, sir.
Honorable Pradeep Multani, President of PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Anand Agarwal, Vice President, Srimati Amisha Jain, Dr. Yogesh Srivastav, Management Committee of PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and all the delegates. I am delighted to take part in this Retail CFO Conclave 2022, and my compliments to the PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry for successfully establishing this forum during the pandemic also. I am very happy to know this organization is working since last 116 years. And the aim of this organization is to improve the business of the different organizations as well as to improve the economy of the country. This summit today has bring together experienced people to discuss a very important topic. It asks about how CFOs from across our country can be architect and contribute towards developing India's economy. Today's CFO role is not just evolving, it is expanding. The COVID-19 pandemic and other environmental factors have now impacted every sector across the world. Despite this, I am happy to say that India's economy is bound to grow at much faster rate with technology and innovation as a drivers. Thanks to the vision of our Honorable Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi ji, this fact has been confirmed by most international organizations. The pandemic has in many ways taken up more towards a digitalized world where consumers too are going in digital transactions, and which is very, very important in future. Naturally, a lot of business operations have also moved online into the digital area. Before anything, this has established a new era for the CFOs to master financial technology, and which is very important in future. This expanding role will need them to enhance their skills and develop new capabilities, especially in the era of technology. In addition, I would like to say the CFOs are also the first guardians of the regulations and to develop the organizations. The government is greatly hopeful and it deposits great trust in the CFOs of all in India. Over the years, it has worked towards building a great working relationship with companies across the India. It has consciously attempted to transform the perceptions of regulatory burdens into meaningful regulatory responsibility. Our government has taken various steps to enhance the ease of doing business through digitalization of regulatory framework. It has also worked on aiding companies in conducting their business safely through digital media. I'm sure the UPI has been of great use to the businessmen and different businesses that shifted online during the pandemic era. On the supply side today, more and more MSMEs can liquidate their receivables instead of worrying about working capitals and payment cycles. CFOs have a key responsibility of financial functions and appropriate availability of foreign direct investment and credit facilities will enable them increase the productivity and economics of the sale. With the recent FDI liberalization by our government, India has been able to leverage FDI across a wide range of sections to generate jobs and absorb technology. Due to the ease of the FDI policy, India has received 50% of the last 20 years FDI in the last 5 years. Indian yearly FDI has grown by nearly 168%. Government has also launched various schemes for seamless flow of credit to startups, MSMEs, and other industrial organizations with an aim to foster economic growth. With the procurement of the finance comes to role of CFOs to utilize these financial resources in an optimal manner, which are declared by the government of India in the Atmanirbhar Bharat package. Here, the government has worked to add the enterprises in their logical challenges. There are schemes such as Sagarmala program, Bharatmala Pariyojana, and multimodal logistic parks through which the government has aimed to reduce logistical hurdles. The national logistic policy, as announced by our Honorable Finance Minister, Madam Nirmala Sitharamanji, will create a single window e-logistic market. The role of a CFO is, it ties in with the DNA of Indian startups and MSMEs. Due to digital revolution, now CFOs are financial advisors and they are not limited to a single area but can be provided to multiple ventures online. This process, virtual CFO, has become a reality. A virtual CFO will engage in activities such as financial functions along with planning, forecasting, and risk management while providing business insights to support the strategy of respective organization. This, I believe, is a challenge but also a unique opportunity. In this endeavor, I wish all CFOs all the best and ensure them that the Indian government is standing with them. I believe that all the CFOs will add business value with new tools and technologies and take on bigger role in executing transformations along with sound ethical corporate governance. Once again, I thank the PHDCCI for their systemic approach in providing valuable feedback to the government of India at important times. I also congratulate all the stakeholders for coming to the program and contributing towards the empowerment of the financial sector. Lastly, I will say our Prime Minister, Honorable Narendra Modi ji, wants improvement in the digital transactions and to see that the India will be the master in the world for digital transaction. It will reduce the corruption, and not only corruption, but it will also save the time. So digital transactions, financial literacy, and financial inclusion, these are the very important role in CFO's organization. I hope all the CFOs are following this. With this speech, I conclude myself and give all the CFOs who are working, who are present here, who are due to some reasons unable to join, but I congratulate them and I give my best wishes to them for future, and we all together come together, work together, and see that our economy will grow. Now recently our budget is going to come within few days, and hope this will be the good for everybody. Once again, I thank the organizers for inviting me and be a part of your conclave. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Thank you very much for your wonderful remarks. And PHDCCI is committed that the digital transaction must be there in the retail sector. And you are absolutely perfect that these are the responsibilities of the CFO to ensure that each and every scheme which the government of India has already extended to the retail sector, which is a $600 billion sector, is really going to come up in such a way so that it have more and more employment opportunities, which is the largest in terms of employment generation, not only in the cities, but also in the villages. Mr. Pradeep Multani, do you want to comment, sir, on the budget or on this thing, since the Honorable Minister is there? And after that, I will go to Ms. Jain for the vote of thanks. Over to Mr. President.
I'll just like to say, Honorable Minister, it's a real privilege to have you with us. We are so impressed and committed to the goals which have been set up by the Honorable Prime Minister. Our chamber is working wholeheartedly that we must achieve the target of $5 trillion economy. Desh ko banana hi banana hai. Apart from that, we have got an agriculture committee, food processing committee. We are working actively towards doubling of farmers' income. We have a skilling committee. हम skilling की तरफ भी पूरा हम काम कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि skilling and employment generation is a very, very important thing. Whatever targets have been set by the government, they are not the government's targets. They are each and every citizen's targets. They are PhD chambers members' target, that they are our targets. And we are really happy that we had 2 interactions with Mr. Piyush Goyal in the last 1 week itself. The proactive role which is being played by all the government ministers and officials, I think there is a dramatic change, and we are committed to work with you. We really thank you, sir, for your wonderful views today. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now I would like to invite Ms. Amisha Jain to kindly give the vote of thanks for this inaugural session, so that Honorable Minister can also listen to it, and then he can take it up for his next assignment. Over to Ms. Amisha Jain, Co-Chair Retail Committee. All yours, ma'am. Please unmute yourself and speak.
Thank you very much. Honorable Dr. Bhagwat Kishan Rao Karad, Honorable Minister of State, Department of Financial Services, Ministry of Finance and Government of India. Mr. Pradeep Multani, President, PHDCCI. Mr. Saurabh Bansal, Chair, Retail Committee, PHDCCI. And Mr. Saurabh Agarwal, Co-Chair, Retail Committee, PHDCCI. Dr. Yogesh Srivastav, Assistant Secretary General, PHDCCI. Management Committee members, friends from the media, and all participants. It is indeed my pleasure to propose a vote of thanks to the esteemed guests here. I congratulate PhD Chamber for organizing the Retail CFO Conclave, empowering the CFOs through the new mandate. With Dr. Bhagwat Kishan Rao Karad, Honorable Minister of State, Department of Financial Services, Ministry of Finance and Government of India. We're extremely thankful to Dr. Bhagwat Kishan Rao Karad for accepting our request and addressing the August gathering. I'm confident that the mission of government is to provide policy support to the public sector banks, public sector insurance companies, and development financial institutions, and also monitor their performance and undertake policy formulation with respect to Banking and Insurance Authority of India. I hope that today's discussion would have given clarity to the industry members who have joined the discussion that the government is taking all the possible measures in smoothening the industry activities, and also look into the discussion and deliberation that happened today on the platform for consideration. With these words, I extend my heartfelt thanks to all the eminent dignitaries and panelists who have been kind enough to be with us today to share their expert perspective on the subject. I'm also sure that the deliberations today will help crystallize the thought process on this subject further, and the audience will gain from the diverse perspectives. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Jain. Thank you very much. A very leading entrepreneur in this part of India. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for gracing the occasion. और मुझे ये कहते हुए बहुत हर्ष हो रहा है, करोड़ों लोगों के जनधन खाते जो खुले हैं इस सरकार माननीय मोदी जी की अध्यक्षता में, रिटेल सेक्टर को उससे बहुत बढ़ावा मिला है। करोड़ों लोग जो है डिजिटल ट्रांजैक्शंस के थ्रू मॉल्स में भी जाकर के अपनी सेल करते हैं, अपने आप को, अपने प्रोडक्ट्स को बेचते हैं। थैंक यू वेरी मच ऑनरेबल मिनिस्टर फॉर ग्रेसिंग द ओकेजन, शेयरिंग द पॉलिसीज, एंड वी विल सर्टेनली कम टू यू सर as soon as the COVID finishes, and then we will meet you in Delhi, sir, since you are in Goa, I have been told, and we will certainly meet you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
So now, ladies and gentlemen, we will not take a break. We will immediately go to the technical session, and the technical session is going to be moderated by Mr. Sumit Abrol, Partner, Lead Advisory, Grant Thornton. And we are very happy that we have today in this technical session, the name of the technical session is Capital Investment Choices in an Omni-Channel World. We will have Mr. Rajneesh Magan, CFO, Bimar India, Mr. Mukesh K. Lakhotia, CFO, Godrej Phillips India Limited, Mr. Vijay Vaishnav, CFO, Eros Now, and post that we will have a Q&A session, and then we will have the concluding remarks. So now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Sumit Abrol, Partner, Lead Advisory, Grant Thornton, to kindly take it forward and moderate the technical session. Over to you, Mr. Sumit. All yours.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
thank you, PhD. Thank you, Mr. Multani, for some very inspiring initial remarks. And thank you, Honorable Minister, for again inspiring us with your brilliant speech on what the government is doing for this sector and the promise that it holds to generate employment. And it was really heartening to see, I think, an overall consistent view emerging that this is one of the largest employment generators, one of the largest sectors of the country, and obviously a systemically an extremely important sector. Before we start this session on capital investment choices in an omni-channel world, I would just like to bring to everybody's attention that the CFO Conclave seminar is kindly supported by Zivame, which is a well-known, leading women wear brand. Our heartfelt thanks and gratitude for Zivame for sponsoring and financially supporting this session. Can I request Zivame for a quick video introduction, if they're ready?
Take that. Yeah. First time. क्या बात है हा हा. One more time, drop it. देखो मैंने क्या किया. देखो मैंने क्या किया. कब किया, कैसे किया, कहाँ किया, जहाँ किया, क्यों किया, यूं किया, बस किया, कर दिया.
Give shape to your inner desires. Zivame.
Thank you, Zivame, for that introduction. So without further ado, I would probably just launch into this session. But at the very onset, I think some of the very key themes that at least resonated with me personally from what I heard from the Honorable President of PHD and also from the Honorable Minister, I think is the expanding role of CFOs, which goes beyond traditional boundaries of accounting and finance specialists to actually partners in corporate strategy, enablers of corporate strategy, and actually leading that corporate strategy from the front, which is, in my view, in my experience, led to a fairly transformational shift to a quasi-CEO role rather than a pure play finance-oriented CFO role for finance incumbents in this industry. And I think that's largely being driven by the need with the advent of omni-channel retail, where most capital allocation decisions, most finance-oriented decisions, they need to be aligned with a larger corporate strategy of an organization to be able to deliver a seamless customer experience for consumers, which are central and core to any organization strategy. And that is understandable because we are in a world now where boundaries on channels have gradually disappeared, and consumers don't really care about fulfillment coming from a general trade channel or a modern trade channel or any other form of traditional channel versus a digital channel. So what they care about is convenience. What they care about is a seamless experience. What they care about is centrality in terms of organizational connect with them. So to talk about this very interesting subject, which is both topical and extremely relevant in the current retail context, we've got a fairly high-powered panel of pedigreed CFOs who collectively bring together almost, I think, 8 decades plus of cumulative finance specialization experience. We have on the panel Mr. Vijay Vaishnav, who is the Deputy Group CFO of Eros India and also the CFO for Eros Now, fairly well-known media and entertainment specialization organization in the country and globally, in fact. He's a specialist in media and entertainment, having spent about 15 years across multiple firms in the space and M&E platforms. We also have Mr. Rajneesh Magan, who again brings on board over 3 decades of experience across multiple diverse industries, and now works as a CFO with a global MNC firm, which is Boimer India. And finally, Mr. Mukesh Lakhotia, who I think again brings in a lot of relevance from the topic that we'll be talking about, which is around retail and consumer businesses. He's again a seasoned finance practitioner with almost 25 years of experience across FMCG, retail, hospitality, and is currently serving as the CFO of Godfrey Phillips. So I would once again like to thank all the panelists on this forum, and we look forward to an engaging and an immersive session to leverage on their experience and talk about this fairly interesting topic that we have today. So kind of just to set the context and moving on, the first thing that comes to mind when we talk of omni-channel is cash burn, is funding losses, is disruption. And these are again some of the very notable themes in terms of disruption that I picked up from some of the earlier addresses here. And so whilst there are significant technology investments that need to go into building an omni-channel platform, this requires a seamless integration of people, systems, data to be able to deliver a seamless consumer experience. So this is the exciting part of what this omni-channel is doing to retail businesses, consumer businesses across the world. But it also brings, I think, some very, very predictable challenges, which I think most people on this forum would understand and would appreciate, is challenges on measuring financial performance. And that clearly brings to mind the top question that when it comes to financial performance, what is this return on investment concept applied to an omni-channel retail business for a finance specialist? How should it be measured? What are the other indicators that we should use to look at and measure financial performance? And are there any benchmarks that we would consider while measuring return on investment. So, and I would like to invite views from all the three panelists on this important, challenging issue, which is emerging, I think, across for all finance specialists. And let me, with that background question, start with Vijay, who obviously comes from an industry which has perhaps taken the quickest leap to move from a traditional to a digital channel, where most M&E businesses, by virtue of the OTT platforms, are now directly interacting with consumers. So Vijay, it'll be great to get your views on how you see some of these challenges around ROI and measuring performance.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me on this panel. So everyone knows, how media and entertainment has gone through the biggest shift in last 6 years. We were always a traditional media company. Media was always, a B2B kind of, scenario, where B2C, we never knew what our end consumers exactly want, whether they love the product, love the content, love the services that we give. So all that was definitely not there in the picture. It was through, various mediators that we used to, get engaged with and try to get information from, like, for example, TRP, right? Television rating points. So if you watch any serial on the television, through a sample size of 10,000 homes, you exactly get to know how many homes are actually watching your content and whether they are liking it or not. And accordingly, the brands used to place their ads for that particular television show. So thanks to digital coming into picture, now we exactly get to know every response of the end consumer on the content that we provide. So the traditional media never had access to the complete data set, with respect to the end consumers. What are their likes? What are their dislikes, choices, whether the end consumer liked the content or not. So all these were the pain points for us, to track it, whether our investments are actually going in the right place, getting the right amount of return that we want. But thanks to, OTT coming into picture, we, exactly got to know our end users' demand. So for example, our OTT app, when it gets, launched on the device of the end user, right from downloading the app to they navigating through the app of ours, we exactly get to know what is the kind of content that they like, they want to see, and within this content, what kind of, scenes that they have loved. So it is that comedy portion that they liked, or that, the song that is currently, whether that is being liked by them or not. So all this is definitely become, a reality. And the better part of this particular entire data set is this, that we get to know the data on the real-time basis. So accordingly, hyper-personalization is something that we have been able to achieve because of, accessing the data of the end users. Along with this, we exactly get to know whether a user coming on the platform is willing to pay that price for that product or not. So kind of, data sets which says that, there is the drop off is, say 90% drop off right at the subscription page, and the users is coming on the platform to buy the product, they end up not buying it, right? So we exactly get to know, okay, the price is an issue, or there's a technical glitch over there, and, there is a fallout over there. So all these, data sets really gives an insight about the end user, which definitely rolls back to our strategy of whether the content is delivering for us, if not, whether marketing is delivering for us, if not, if the pricing is delivering for us. So basis all these data sets, we exactly, draw our strategy and try to improve on a daily basis because, of the help of the data sets that we get. So whether for example, are we targeting the ads to the right consumer or not? So within the age group of 16 to 20, we exactly know whether what kind of ads that age group will definitely want to, see it and eventually make a purchase of it. So all that data sets we give to the brands, to the agencies, so that they can make an informed decision whether they want to place an ad on our platform, on our content or not, basis the kind of users that we have. So, we have two sets of, business currently going on. One is the traditional media, where, our theatrical business, our satellite business, our TV business, our music business, our cable business is going in the set way that it is there, where exactly the, omni-channel doesn't come into picture. We have the set traditional media, middlemen, which is there, and the kind of data set that we get. And then we have the other set of, business, which is the digital, the OTT business, where exactly we command the process of the entire business and exactly get to know what our users want. And basis that data set, we can, comprehend our traditional, businesses where the content provision and the service that we provide over there gets tweaked basis the data sets over here.
Thank you, Vijay, for that interesting perspective. And I will come back to summarize some very interesting takeaways for me, at least for sure. But let me now move to Mukesh. And given your extensive experience in FMCG and retail, and obviously Vijay brought in some very interesting insights from a media and entertainment or a services perspective. But what has been your experience and your views in terms of the role of returns of investments and traditional financial metrics to measure performance in an omni-channel world? You will need to unmute yourself, Mukesh. Would I request you to do that? Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry, I got a bit late. this was preponed. So on my experience on, I think omni-channel, if we discuss it or not, I'm not sure. It is something, which is basically where, you have a seamless integration across various multi-channels and to increase the customer experience and customer satisfaction. So far as traditional and, omni-channel is very important, I would say, nowadays, after especially post-pandemic, and also with the recent increase in the number of, internet users and increase in mobile handsets, people have been preferring more and more online shopping. So a company cannot do without being present in omni-channel now. And he has to be online as well as if they're already in direct to retail or if they're already in offline stores. Omni-channel very well supplements the traditional brick and mortar stores. On the key parameters, if you speak, there are various key parameters in terms of, like you can see the annual order value, the average order value or the average bill value which a customer spends. If that, is one of the measurement of whether your customer is spending more or not. Another way is the kind of, you can say the brand awareness which is created by way of number of users, number of visits to your website or to your app, which is, part of the omnichannel mechanisms. And another way of, you can say a KPI, where you just, whether if you're, you're doing well or not in terms of omnichannel, how it's supporting your traditional business is increase in sales, increase in overall sales.
Great. Thank you, Mukesh, for that. And I think, again, some very clear resonating themes.
I would also like to, sorry, Sumit, I would also like to add a few more KPIs. If that is the, so just to add, one is of course the churn rate. You can see always look at it. There are a number of KPIs, how you measure. So one is, I mentioned about the average order value or the bills. Other thing is the customer retention part. Then there is a brand awareness, brand advocacy. Churn rate is basically how many people actually log into your website and they are members, and then on a certain period you see if the number has gone down or not. The lower the churn rate is better for the organization, because that is a very important aspect.
Yeah, great. So basically using tools to stay as connected to the consumer as possible, and that it itself, as Vijay also rightly mentioned, bring out the power of data, and that power of data can be utilized in numerous fashions to be able to generate returns on investments on for such technology-oriented investment, which can go beyond traditional boundaries. And some of those investments could actually need to be measured in terms of strengthening of the brand, and which is basically building formidable businesses for the future. Again, something that you also spoke about. So tracking consumer behavior to generate data and using that data to be able to maximize your returns in non-traditional ways. So yeah, that's a fairly interesting perspective.
Because online channel gives you a lot of data, and you have to analyze data which can give you insights into customers' preferences, what kind of they prefer, how much quantity they prefer, what time they prefer. So that gives a lot of, if you can rightly analyze that, you can really read a customer's mind, I would say.
Sure. Thank you for that, Mukesh. Let me come to you, Rajneesh. So I think you bring in that significant traditional, conventional experience, conventional wisdom with over 30 years in a wide array of finance roles, not necessarily limiting yourselves to only consumer businesses. How do you read some of these, the new age transformation of measuring ROIs? How do you read it as a finance practitioner coming from multiple roles?
Thanks, Sumit. Thanks for the introduction. And as you rightly said, I've been for a long in the EPC business. So traditionally, and cut from the retail and the FMCG business. But yes, we all stay connected to the business, what's happening around us in the economy and the way the entire business models have changed. Especially, I would classify to the pre-pandemic and the post-pandemic era. I mean, online business was there even in the pre-COVID times or the pre-pandemic, and certainly it has it's been on a very accelerated path, even for the companies which are doing the business on a physical formats or hard stores format. So omni-channel is here to stay, especially post-pandemic. This is online, offline business shall go together now. And companies also which were doing offline business also want to do online to give customers a better customer experience. I mean, that's very key is how do you give better customer experience, as Mukesh and Vijay also mentioned. The customers also look and can also capture a lot of data. But at the same time, while you're doing and the business models have changed, the challenges for the finance professionals are very different now in this, online business models, because the area and the KPIs we used to track in the traditional formats for the business was the ROI, the EBITDA, the net profit, and the free cash in the business. That would not be there in the online business models for a long time, or maybe because their break-even times are also gestation periods are very high. And there's a different business altogether. And especially in India, this mindset change has to happen, how this business needs to be managed and handled better in terms of the financial operativity or the, measuring the financial KPIs. We have also seen that the investors who invest in this business in the initial phase also look for long-term success. They are not looking for short-term profits. That's the visibility they also want to have, because, they're not going to make profit in the short run. So that's very important. And also, if I traditionally categorize the KPIs, which would be more relevant for the online business and in the omni-channel business also, we all know gross merchandise value is one of the key KPIs, the online business definitely looks at. What is the GMV? Mukesh also mentioned what the average purchase price each customer is doing, that you can track the customer. And these days it is all possible because of the technology solutions, the AI and the ML models we have integrated to these systems, the technology solutions. We all know it's happened very fast. We do some purchase today on Amazon, and I have put in a basket for purchase to decide tomorrow. Next day morning, you already have a email. Yeah, look, something attractive is there, similar to this or this in your mailbox. Why don't you look at it? So ML makes you sort of an impulsive purchaser also. It helps you to purchase on the online models, good for the business. Also, what is very important in this business parameter, which was not there traditionally in the physical format, is how fast are we burning the cash? Do we know how long we are going to burn the cash? Do we have this business plan of sustainability on a long-term basis, on a short-term and long-term? If we all know, 5 years we are going to burn the cash, and this cash is going to come from, my equity or the debt, whatever kind of a mix we'll have, all these things will determine the KPIs for the business. There are challenges in measurement of this KPIs for the online business, especially in the omni-channel also. But I think the business and the industry and the investors are getting attuned to these KPIs also. We have also seen the listing experiences recently in India for the Paytm, what has happened. I mean, the business was doing good, valued very high. Suddenly on listing, it goes down. So it means the market is still not ready to measure these KPIs in terms of the knowledge of the KPIs is also missing in the investors per se. Otherwise, the business is the same business what Paytm was doing earlier. So it is only the perception of the people. And the same business, fintech business, if they were to do similarly in the US or the European market, it would be doing differently or value differently even on the stock exchange. So these are the learning lessons for all of us, for the finance professionals, especially who are connected to the industry. And definitely it's an evolving space and the time. We'll learn over the time, I would say.
Yes, absolutely. We will learn with time. And I think what I also believe is that whilst there are clear challenges in terms of cash flow management, going beyond traditional boundaries of investing for the present or investing for the future, seeing returns on the P&L, or waiting for the balance sheet to continue to build up over a period of time through strengthening of brands, strengthening of businesses. I think these have also created, so whilst they have created opportunities, and I think significant opportunities for businesses to stay connected to their consumers, and I think that brings in that whole concept of perhaps the lifetime or the life cycle value of a customer versus a transactional value of a customer. Businesses to be able to, traditional businesses who are already supplying products and services to their consumers, to actually strengthen that relationship through a connected digital experience, which also I'm sure will actually help them bring their cost of acquiring every customer down, because they already own the customer and all they need to do is to be able to fulfill his requirements of convenience through a digital platform. But yes, that paradox in terms of investing for today versus investing for future brings me to a fairly interesting question, which I'm sure again a lot of finance specialists on this platform would like to know, and then maybe lean on you, Vijay, to maybe talk about this, that typical traditional view of seeing returns on the P&L versus investing for creating value and sustainable long-term value in future is a little bit of a paradigm shift for finance professionals and CXOs. So how would you look at, in your experience, manage internal competition for investments where the traditional channels and the traditional side of the business would continue to command investments for, let's say, increasing stores, increasing inventory, increasing the depth of existing channels, versus some of these new age channels which require deep investments in technology? How would you manage, as a finance practitioner, that competition between these two different pools of capital, requirements of capital? Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, 200% sure. Goes without saying. You know what? Being in this media and entertainment for almost 15 years, I have seen the first 6-7 years of my career in media. My P&Ls used to always be in green. So, it was a good P&L to be managed and all that. And then when digital came into picture, consumers' eyeballs started shifting from traditional to the digital phase. So what happened was all the powerhouses of media and entertainment started investing heavily in the OTT, to be present there, to grab the market share. Thus, the investment then was made to create value. See, the Indian media houses knew that, the multinationals like Netflix and Amazon's gonna, change and disrupt the market. So while they do it should not be whitewash for them. So they started, putting their content and creating their own OTT apps just to be present over there in that particular OTT segment. Now, if you actually look at this entire scenario, obviously it needs a lot of investment, both in terms of technology investment, product investment, and content investment. You won't believe one episode of an web series or an OTT or the digital content of a 30-minute is 10 times more than what it is there on television. So if this is the huge kind of investment that we are looking at, both in terms of content, in terms of the technology development, I mean, it's going to take a lot of time to, break even, definitely. So when we started in 2015, 2016, starting days of my Viacom and then Z, I started, getting that P&L coming in red. And we were actually figuring out how and what is the right value to the investments that we make. But at the same time, because we know that there is no immediate return that we can see on the dollar that we spend, taking money from the markets in form of debt would have been a suicidal. And that's the reason most of the new age digital businesses all have their monies in form of equity, because that phase gonna come where these monies will start earning dollar for you, and that would be the time when you start taking more money in form of debt to expand. But right at the initial phase, I believe, and it's strongly been thought through, that equity phase of funding really worked and will continue to work. So what happened was that because we had our traditional set of business which was generating cash, we started utilizing that cash and investing in the new age platform. And obviously, all my previous companies being listed companies, markets were doubting of the fact that Amazon and Netflix gonna be disrupting the market, what's going to be the future of the existing media companies. So we had to definitely make that shift and make that investment. And that's the reason going deep dive and accepting the fact that the P&L is going to be red was something that it was a conscious call. Now within that, there are three basic investments that had to be made. One investment was in the technology piece, one in the content piece, and other was the marketing piece. Now, within all this, as a CFO, your role then becomes that, is the pricing correct? Is the cost correct? Is this how to derive on the services that you receive, whether it is a correct service that is received to ensure that, the ROIs are being maintained in terms of the deliverables. Similarly, what is the CAC, a cost of acquisition? I still remember we used to acquire one customer at 30-35 rupees. That time in 3-4 years back. Now the cost of customer has come down to as low as 10 rupees per install. So that is something that the major shift has happened. Now after 6-7 years of into this OTT business, the mindset has become profitability. Now there is no investment in terms of getting the value created, because now this market is getting matured. Like telecom had those, flurry of 15-20 players to start with, and finally it is down to 3. This is something that is happening in the OTT business. In next 3-4 years, you will see those clear set of maybe 4 or 5 players really dominating this market, along with those smaller players which is going to be there at a smaller level of investments. So OTT, from a business standpoint, from an investment standpoint, like to summarize, equity mode of investing is the kind of investing that one should look at. And now profitability comes into picture. So in next 4-5 years, you will see the red P&L turning into green. Thank you.
Interesting, Vijay. And I think that whole journey from green P&Ls to red P&Ls, and then that long gestation period to see green again, can clearly be challenging times and stimulating times for finance specialists. But as the Honorable Minister also very briefly touched upon some very relevant points, that embracing technology and embracing financial technologies will perhaps smoothen that cycle out and get businesses to remain close to their customers, and eventually bring their cost of acquiring customers down, as you also very successfully did from where you started out from. And I think some very pertinent points made on that choice of capital as well, which again has to be seen in conjunction with what stage of the life cycle is the business in, what stage of life cycle is that capital investment choice in, which actually leads me to a leading question for Rajneesh. Again, leveraging your significant traditional experience in planning, forecasting, risk management, and other functions of a finance practitioner, that Vijay touched about some of those alternate pools of capital which need to be leaned upon for some of these high risk technology investments, which have a long gestation period. And he touched upon that point that debt is not a preferred means of using as a financing tool for some of these early stage investments, where the risk quotient is definitely higher, and that should be used selectively once businesses have stabilized and some of these investments have stabilized and started to reap dividends. What, in your view, are the alternate pools of capital which a CFO should consider, and what are the real considerations for a finance specialist while choosing that form of capital, depending on the choice of the investment allocation that needs to go in?
Thanks, Sumit. I think Vijay touched on most of the topics, so job is much easier for me, I would say. But yeah, I mean, coming to your question specifically, I mean, before answering your question, we all definitely have to categorize this business, online business model, or the omni-channel itself. We get into the omni-channel. You need to forget about the traditional KPIs like land, building, inventory, building all those heavy assets, and come to a set light model. A set light model, because in the new kind of a business, what we are doing today, or the OTT platforms, everything being transacted OTT, most of the capex is going into the technology or technology related capex. Could be your own IT assets within the organization. Rest all is your OPEX. Most of these companies works on the OPEX model, their business partners. These models are also evolving in the market. And we also need to look at with the different classes with these businesses while evaluating the capital structure, because these businesses have different dynamic requirements, which are difficult for the traditional business financial controllers also to understand. I would say let's say I'm a traditional financial controller, it would be very difficult. I have to look at this business with a different glass. If I wear the same glass, you'll always be looking at the strong balance sheet, the green P&L, which would not be there for quite some time. It's going to take a while before the business becomes from red to the green, and you go on a long-term value creation of the business, and you see the business is a sustainable business over next long-term 5 to, and there's no cash burn. Business itself becomes cash positive business. It's going to take a while. So assuming the situation the way it is, I don't think any of the banks would come in and chip in their money into a business when you submit them a business plan. Look, my business is going to be 10 years negative, profit negative, cash negative, but I have a very good business plan and I can turn around provided they buy your vision, which seems very difficult, especially in India at least. I don't think it's possible. Kind of the NPS we had, kind of the business bank scenario we had, it's not going to happen. So if the business needs the money, you have to look at the new capital sources to get the business funded. It has to come from the investors who believe in your idea, who believe in the business vision, who believe in the long-term success of the business, who believe in the concept of the business itself. And those, maybe they have some prior experience, or maybe they have the gut feeling this business is also going to turn around, because we have also seen a lot of businesses getting funded by the family wealth management offices or their owners also. So that's how it is happening. Various ways of funding this, but equity is going to be a distant dream till the time either they get listed, which of course has been made possible by SEBI very recently, and we have seen a couple of listings also for these new age companies on the stock exchange. Once that happens, then of course it becomes easier for business to source the capital from the market also and from the banks also. Once the bank sees that the money is getting invested by the public at large through the public issues or the IPOs, then maybe they also come forward and invest the money in these business areas. But till the time it happens, because business has some maturity cycle, maybe 0 to 5 years for this business to turn around, or maybe you give us some kind of a glimpse of business turning around soon. That is the time you would have investors or the banks coming up, investors exiting and banks coming into the business on a debt. Every time it's going to be more, your self-funded or investors, personal investments funded. Different kind of funding models are already there in the market.
Yeah. So I think very consistent and reinforcing views to what even Vijay touched upon, that patient capital, high risk appetite capital should be a priority for funding some of these early stage tech enabled investments to build omni-channel platforms out, and debt can come in later at a slightly more stabilized stage of some of these investments. So I think pretty much a very reinforcing view there, and thank you for that, Rajneesh. So, and I think kind of just moving on a bit, coming to Mukesh, given your deep experience in FMCG retail for over 25 years, and whilst you've spoken about some of these technology investments having their peculiar challenges and having a long gestation period, but at the same time, all these omni-channel formats are becoming very core and central to any corporate strategy for a consumer business. So in your view, do you see this as a complementary business to your traditional channels, which is an absolutely must for businesses, retail businesses to embrace? Or do you think that this is something which could tomorrow become a substitute or a parallel line to running businesses in a traditional way through modern trade and general trade channels?
Right, yeah. See, so traditionally, I mean, in the retail, food and grocery or apparels, it has been brick and mortar. But from last few years, you can see there has been an online has really emerged as a very clear must. If a traditional brick and mortar business doesn't really go the online or omni-channel way, then I don't think they can really survive in the longer run. So to answer your question, yes, omni-channel very well supplements and supports the growth of the business along with the brick and mortar. Because I mean, as I mentioned earlier, the omni-channel is something which it cuts across. It's not just brick and mortar; it is across all the channels. It is across. You know, it can be app-based, it can be web portal-based. There could be web store. There could be platforms, e-commerce platforms where you can have your products. And for example, Flipkarts or Myntra, where apparels can showcase their products, or Nykaa, where the cosmetic and beauty spaces, beauty products can showcase their products and sell. And they have become a major player. And as Mr. Magan Rajneesh mentioned, I mean, yeah, I mean, you don't look at they burn cash initially. I mean, all these new players who have a great valuation, but no one has really understood the valuation. I mean, why they are valued so highly, or it is just one P investor and then, you know, the other P investor taking over. But a traditional, if you value them, I mean, you will find, okay, I mean, they're burning cash, and as recent as Nykaa, we just turned positive, you know, EBITDA very recently. I mean, they were all burning cash. But what is valuable is the pace of growth. A brick and mortar can't grow at, I mean, at the most, a like-to-like stores growth rate can be maybe 10, 12%. But online, you can grow at more than 50%, more than 100%. That's the kind of growth it has seen. And that is probably the reason the kind of valuation they have been seen, because it has been perceived that this is really a big growth driver. So coming to answer, yes, I mean, you have to be an online and present on omni-channel if you want to give a customer experience, seamless experience across all the multi-channels, which an omni-channel can integrate. In a food and grocery business, I mean, the omni-channel is growing at 57% CAGR and can go beyond $1.3 trillion. That's a kind of a potential it has in next 5 years from 2019 to 2024. So that shows the potential of the growth of omni-channel business. And yeah, there's a lot of competition in this, especially in retail and food and grocery. You found now, for example, a Zepto or Grofers, which has changed its business strategy, and now it is going for Blinkit for 8 and 10 minutes. Zepto recently today I saw they're ordering. There's no minimum delivery. You know, order value. There is no delivery charges. On top of it, they're giving 30% discount to acquire a customer. So that is the kind of customer acquisition cost is being incurred to give customer the best of experience. So yeah. I think it's sorry.
Sorry, no, please go ahead. Sorry, maybe I interrupted you.
Yeah. So and no, see, so this omni-channel is, of course, it takes time, but it also gives a lot of data, which is, you know, which a traditional brick and mortar one may not be able to collect those kind of data and analyze those data, which can give deep insights into the customer. At the same time, I would say it is very important that the experience of an omni-channel has to be great. I mean, if the experience is not great, suppose you order on an app and you find, okay, I'm ordering 5 products and I'm getting only 3 delivered, then that kind of experience is something which is not desirable. Similarly, or if you want certain products and those products are not available in the first place in your app, which you want to buy them, then again, it is not something which is desirable. So it is very important that technology plays a great role, and the content is very important. There has to be a solid team behind the app, who continuously monitors it. The supply chain is integrated with the omni-channel in order to fulfill, because the fulfillment rate has to be very high. If the fulfillment rate is low, again, it will result into bad experiences, and the customer may actually can become a negative to the existing businesses. But on the whole, the sales, I mean, it really helps in growing the sales, really helps in see, because I think now, if you find almost 70% customers, at least they go through online and decide and see what are the various choices available, and then they probably go to the offline to buy a particular product if they are not buying online also.
Yeah, so I think some very interesting takeaways there, and the way I read it now as a consumer, not as a finance practitioner, it's not one versus the other. It's not traditional versus new. It's not about multi-channel. I think it's about omni-channel, and that's the fine distinction. It's about having a connected experience for the consumer, where all these channels need to talk to each other. They need to share data. They need to share systems. They need to have complementarities with each other rather than compete with each other. And I think that's what brings in that the new paradigm and the new perspective that finance practitioners need to follow, of using different lenses to evaluate investments while investing behind these businesses, while evaluating different capital options to invest behind these businesses. I think these are some of the very interesting themes that we've spoken about in the last 45 minutes or so. So thank you for that to all the panelists. In conclusion, my last question, which I think again fairly relevant, just a few quick couple of minutes from each one of you, that whilst these are great things that you need to invest behind technology, and you need to embrace change, and you need to make it omni-channel a central part of your corporate strategy, but at the same time, there also need to be some warning signs that you need to watch out for, so that corrective action can be taken. Otherwise, some of these investments, which are high-risk investments, can potentially harm businesses systemically over a period of time, as businesses could very quickly turn into a downward spiral if corrective action is not taken on and tracking some of these investments. So would you like to share, maybe starting with Vijay, and then we can go to the others, on what are those top 2 or 3 pointers that you would want to lay out as advice for audience on this call, or on this forum, to be able to watch out for in terms of warning signs?
4 years and almost 5-6 years of being invested in the OTT business. The only thing that triggers off is the numbers going even a single penny above the targets that we have set. So, for example, if we have a cash burn target of say $100 for a month, it has to get stick to $100. Anything going beyond 100 will become a teething issue for the entire management, because anyways we have invested heavily over here. So what we do, because of data coming on a daily and hourly basis, we exactly know where the numbers gonna land for the month, and accordingly we tweak our spends. Classic example that I have gone through in my career in the OTT for last 6 years has been, I have stopped campaign within 1 day of the launch of the campaign. This is the data that we got. So being very particular about our investments, and thankfully to the data that is being shared and gets captured on the OTT platform, it gives a very insightful meaning onto understanding where the business is going and what is the pocket size. A pocket size gets determined right at the beginning of the year. It gets determined at the beginning of the month. It gets determined at the beginning of the week, and it gets determined at the beginning of the day. So that kind of evaluation is something that we go deep dive, and we have set those trigger points. Whichever and whatever KPIs gets shaken up, which will have direct impact on the bottom line, gets triggered in red and gets circulated to the management, so the management accordingly can action.
Absolutely. So have your tools ready in place so you can track your performance in a disciplined way, and make sure that you're pretty much within range of targets that you set for yourself. Rajneesh, maybe a quick couple of thoughts from you.
As I think from outside the online business, because I'm not a part of it, what looks to me is the way we are doing the online business and the way the business model is data protection. Risk of data protection is very high. We need to protect the data because especially with the kind of cyber attacks we are all having in our businesses, even in the non-traditional business also, traditional business also we have cyber attacks. So what if the data gets, stolen? It's a loss of the key asset of the business itself if the data is stolen. So we need to protect. Again, is the risk of losing your high key resources, I would say, because especially I've seen a lot of people moving from one company to another at a drop of a hat, 2 months here and 3 months there, and next year you see them in another company. So this is very much happening in this business. So again, a risk from the another risk which may not seem as a risk to the person who are in the business, as I see a risk from an outsider, is a risk of irresponsible innovation. For innovation, I mean, why I'm saying irresponsible innovation? Innovation is all responsible, innovation is all good, it is much needed. But if the innovation is way ahead of its time, neither the market is able to understand, nor the consumer is able to understand, and you stay invested in the technology a hell amount of money, then maybe we need to be Elon Musk to, move from $100 million valuation to $1 trillion in a very short span of time, because the industry thinks differently in a short span of time. These are a couple of ideas I have on this risk.
Interesting, Rajneesh, you brought out, I think, a couple of unusual categories to focus on, but very relevant, which is managing risk for a few intangibles, which is data, which is having your cyber security pieces in place, because data is perhaps one of the biggest assets that gets churned out of omni-channel businesses. And the second bit is people, which is the second most important asset for any organization. So guarding your gates and managing your people efficiently. So thank you for that. Although I think the last comment in terms of innovation, it's a great thought to come in from a traditional perspective. I'm sure a lot of venture capitalists will have a difference in view there, but as a prudent finance practitioner, I think that's a very, very relevant point to have highlighted. Mukesh, coming to you, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I mean, as a CFO, I very well agree to what Vijay said. I mean, the whole idea is you have to stick to the plan. I mean, if you know this is the amount of cash burn you have to do, that is the first of all if it goes beyond it, the red flag has to be raised. So it is very important to measure some of the key parameters, and as I mentioned, so we have to look at if your app is working properly, the conversion rate is high or not, and very importantly, the customer lifetime value, because if the customer lifetime value is the total net profit which you can earn from every customer, and the longer you are engaged, the higher the CLV, the higher the greater chances of earning profits. So ultimately, one has to reach to that level in a longer period to see that the omni-channel is not just a burning cash, but ultimately it's going to boost overall profit and overall customer experience. So that's very important.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. I think it's been a fairly engaging session, and my sincere thanks to Vijay to bring in a very dynamic industry perspective, again, coming from an industry which has been one of the first to embrace change from traditional to a D2C world, and to Rajneesh, bring in that conventional wisdom and over 30 years, that I keep saying, of strong finance experience, and to Mukesh as well, being a core consumer specialist in finance roles. I would maybe now leave the floor open for the audience to come back with a few questions if they have. I can already see a few in the chat box, and maybe I can take them one by one. I can see one which has come directly for Vijay, which says that what role the retail management will play in the media and entertainment industry, let's say in 5 to 10 years down the line. So a little bit of a crystal ball gazing there for you, Vijay.
Yeah, so I mean, they have to change their mindset. They have to completely come out of that greenery that they have seen all these years and come into something which is more dynamic. Life's not going to be easy. Players going to come and they will try to be more aggressive. You just have to be there playing the game correctly, as I mentioned. Identify the exact pain points in a P&L, try to correct it, and make sure that it makes an economic sense. So as I mentioned earlier, the traditional media where per cost per episode was X, the revenue was around X plus something. Here the cost is X plus something and revenue is minus X. So that particular math needs to get identified and corrected in order to ensure that all the players survive in this market.
Yeah, thank you for that, Vijay. Another one that we have, and it's not directed at any respective panelists, but I will leave it to the three of you, whoever is best positioned to take this, which talks about what is the right timing for making such technology investments in retail. Is there a timing threshold? Are there any progression milestones that you can watch out for before calling out some of these investments? Rajneesh, Mukesh, or Vijay, if any one of you would want to comment on this.
If I may take this.
I would like to answer.
Okay. Go ahead, Mukesh. Absolutely. Yeah.
See, timing is, of course, it's something which is basically how you want to face the competition. Whenever you think you are losing out on market share, or there is lower footfalls, or the sales are dropping, it's time to to see that how we can mitigate this loss and move to a channel where we can get more footfalls, more customers, or more products, or we can more channels where we can sell our products. I think that day you realize, okay, that this time has come for me to go and invest in omnichannel.
Absolutely, that's a fairly pointed, tangible piece of advice. Vijay, would you want to add something there? I know that you also wanted to comment.
So, in order to survive, if your competitors are doing really good and bringing more innovation in the already existing OTT platform, I feel that if you don't make those changes in your app, I believe the customers are not loyal, at least in the omni-channel scenario, and they would end up, going to your competition, and all the investments that you have made all these years will then become a loss-making investment. So it is quite important that to keep a good eye on what competitors are doing, and if exactly you get to know, because the beauty of this omni-channel is this, that you exactly get to know what competitors are doing, and you yourself can be a consumer over there. So you exactly get to know what are your drawbacks, what are your pain points, and fix those pain points in your app and try to make consumer happy the way they are.
Yeah, absolutely. Very relevant thoughts. And the last one that I have on my screen, though I don't think it's directly related to the retail subject that we've been talking about for the last 60 minutes or so, but maybe I can still take it to Rajneesh, which comes from again a fairly different context in the question, which says, what is the protection to a whistleblower in the projects of NHAI and some other infra projects? The role of CFO is being abolished. So is there any protection that CFOs can expect to get for whistleblowers, and is the role under threat in the first place? So it's a little bit of an offbeat question, but maybe I can request you to comment, Rajesh.
Good question, offbeat, but very relevant to our industry, I would say. Though we don't work with NHAI, so I don't think I'll answer the question specifically to NHAI. So, we all in our organizations have the conduct guidelines, or what we call the business conduct guidelines. The business conduct guidelines already specify what an employees or a management can do and what they cannot do. So they're clear defined do's and don'ts. Now, if do's and don'ts are there, who is the owner of the do's and don'ts in the company? If somebody is doing what is not supposed to be done, is the CFO or the CEO perhaps is the risk owner for that? Maybe there is a whistleblower in the company who wants to bring some wrong practice, business practice to the notice. So whosoever is the identified business owner, you must bring it to their knowledge, and then they have to escalate. Now coming to the specific question, they have to address this issue, specific question of the government contracts, because I know where this is coming from. So I would not like to mention NHAI, but in all government contracts usually have integrity pact signed these days. The integrity pact clearly specifies that you would not enter into any kind of bribery or collusion with any of the government officials. If it is found later you have done, the organization itself which is engaging in such activities could be blacklisted. So to take care of all this, and this integrity pact comes from the Transparency International. So most of the wordings are pretty standard globally. We do also sign these in our business with the government contracts. So it's very much relevant, and the whistleblower needs to be protected for bringing the right kind of a complaint or malpractices to the notice of the management. But sometimes we should not have any malignant intention of fixing a person in the organization. We have also seen you raise a complaint and you want to settle your personal score with someone and bring the complaint on the table, and you're doing something personal. So it should be left out, your personal objectives and the agenda. But yes, any whistleblower needs to be rightly protected and ring-fenced within the organization.
Thank you for that, Rajneesh. Maybe the last question now, which I can take, and maybe any one of you could take it. Perhaps you, Mukesh. It's a very direct question which talks about offline business getting deeply impacted with online. Are offline businesses going to survive in the long run?
Sorry, yeah, I do agree with that. I mean, the kind of deep discounting which is happening in online businesses, it is hurting to some of the offline players. But what is happening now is that the same offline players are also getting into online businesses. I think that was the beauty of this omni-channel, and because to survive and to be relevant to competition, you have to be present in both the channels. But if you are purely an offline player, so definitely, yeah, then you are getting affected. And I think that is the reason behind the government is also looking into it, the pricing rules. I think Amazon, and there has been a CCI who is trying to look into it, whether is there anything which is you can say hurting the small traders, especially may not be the larger players who are present in both the channels, but the smaller traders who are present. So that somewhere there can be a cap on the discounting, but I haven't seen a proper solution to that so far.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think with that, thank you for answering those questions and the last 60 minutes. At least I have had a very engaging session with all of you on the panel.
Can I ask one question, sir?
Oh, please, sir, please.
I have a question with Vijay Vaishnav ji. Vijay ji, you have seen this, especially OTT channels have come up in such a big in numbers. Especially why I'm connecting it with the retail, segment A, from youngsters to people like of my father age. They are connected with such kind of channels. And what I have particularly seen, especially with the elders from that age group of plus 70, 75, they have filled it up all their cards, details, etc. And when they go to Netflix, they say okay to everything. And sometimes they, at the end of the month, they come and they say, "Arey Baba, they were charging earlier 500. Now suddenly they have charged me more than 900 rupees." So I said, "What you have done?" I asked my father. He said, "I was earlier seeing it through my mobile. Then I went to my big LCD screen. When I sign in over there, they said, okay, you have to do okay." So I said, you have to read each and every part of it. But I think in this segment, these channels are playing a trick. This is what my personal feeling is. And at the end of the day, they are not even communicating it with the customers that these are the set of rupees they are going to charge from a different channels. So especially in the media and entertainment sector, don't you think that they need to be more transparent if they really want that OTT channels are really going to survive in this country? Any comments, sir, on this?
Yeah, sure. So, I would rather, accept this fact that this used to happen in numbers when it started somewhere in 2013, 2014. where you just happen to click a picture which you can see on the mobile, and suddenly it used to go to your telecom operator and it used to come to your bill saying that, okay, this much got debited just by clicking a picture over there. But now with TRAI, coming up with a lot of regulation, we have now an OTT committee set up at the government level. These rules and regulations have become more tough. So for example, auto debit. Now, auto debit has been stopped completely by RBI, right? So all the data that we had stored of our consumers with respect to their credit card, debit cards, for debiting them on a monthly basis for the packs that they consume is now stopped completely. Now the bankers have to go back to their customers, take their consent. If they give a consent through an OTP, then only it gets activated, that too only for that particular month. Again, they have to give a consent. So all that thing has come into picture post, the kind of experiences we all had at our level and as well in, the senior members in our family. So, but point here truly noted is that now we are guided and governed by a good, strong compliances. It has just started, I believe, in times to come by, because, government has realized that this is the future, right? And when the business and when the government sees that this is the future and they're gonna be there at least for minimum 10 to 15 years, governments come into action and try to, formulate the same, which is what is happening. In next couple of years, you will find more stringent regulations and controls just to avoid any kind of loopholes and leakages over here.
Thank you very much. So I think it's a great piece of information for those customers that they need not, deactivate their debit card and then, apply for the fresh one. But I think if these kind of stringent rules and regulation comes, then I think it is really very, very beneficial for the customers so that they can choose their channel as per their choice. Over to you, Sumit ji.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Srivastava. So I would just like to now thank PHD for giving us the opportunity to talk about this very interesting subject. And it was great to get a diversity of views where there was very clear convergence coming in on multiple aspects. So thank you, Vijay. Thank you, Rajneesh. Thank you, Mukesh, for those insights and experiences. It's been great having all of you on the panel. And thank you, audience, for a very patient participation in this panel discussion. So can I hand it over back to the PhD desk here?
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for this wonderful session. And let me say on behalf of PHDCCI, especially from the retail committee, and I believe Ms. Jan would agree with me as a co-chair of this committee, each and every participant and the panelists, those who are here, if you want to use this platform, do you have any sort of, information or assistance with the government, whether it is state government or central government, use this platform, use this channel, use this linkages which we have with the central government, and let us ensure that this retail sector certainly going to come in such a way so that each and everything is transparent, honest, and then it should be a win-win situation for both of not only for the companies, but for the customers. So with this note, thank you very much, Sumitji, for conducting in such a excellent way. And I am 100% sure people are going to be benefited out of it. I have been told by my colleague Ajay Bansal that the next edition of this Retail CFO is going to happen on 8th of March. Am I right, Ajay?
It's 8th of February.
Oh, sorry, 8th of February. So 8th of February, it is going to happen. Again, we are going to discuss with a new set of people, new set of panel, that how the CFO, the backbone of retail sector, is going to help the customers as well as engaging themselves with all stakeholders and authorities to make sure that this sector, which is the largest in terms of employment generation, is going to benefit out of it. So ladies and gentlemen, with this note, if you have any questions, I have already put my email ID in the chat box as well as the email ID of my colleague Ajay Bansal. Please do come back to us with your suggestion. And let me also request Ajay to ensure that the panelists, those who have joined, they should be part and parcel of our committee, so that we must have engagement with them about their sector also, about their issues also, so that we can engage with the central as well as with the state government. So with this note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Have a great day, whatever balance it is left out, and namaskar.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.